Well, greetings and welcome back to another video. So yesterday, as I was going through my to-do list, I noticed this weird phenomenon of the mind. I noticed that my mind was repulsive about the things that I was doing, as it often does, and it was going on and on about things like, what's the point of all this? Why would anybody want to do uncomfortable things? It is just so boring. I mean, what's the point of doing the laundry or doing the dishes if it is eventually gonna get dirty? Why couldn't we just live like our ancestors and roast our food or wear a fig leaf? That would solve all the problems, wouldn't it? That was how my mind was going. And while my mind was going on and on about all these things, repulsive about the things that I was doing, my hands were constantly doing the things. And the moment I completed all my tasks, I noticed my mind was suddenly calmed down and it suddenly got into this enlightened state where it was saying things like, discomfort really is the way. How would we even have evolved if we just ran away from discomfort all the time? I mean, our ancestors, went to hunt saber-tooth just so they could feed their family. Obstacle really is the way. Ryan Holiday was right. I was thinking about all these things and I realized how unreliable our mind was. Tendency of the mind which we think is logical can sometimes be just a fallacy. I've talked about this in my video where I did the morning pages for 7 days, and I talk about how the very logical aspect of ourselves that we assume is always right is oftentimes getting in the way. Oftentimes our mind is unreliable. How do we approach life, or how do we approach improving ourselves or accomplishing our dreams if we get in our own way? As I was working along this line of thought during my journaling, I was reminded of this movie that I saw a few years back, and the movie is called The Last Samurai, starring our very own Tom Cruise. In one part of the movie, Tom Cruise is being taught all of these samurai techniques, right? He's learning about the way of the samurai from the last descendants of samurai themselves in Japan. And as he's doing some stupid moves and he fumbles a lot as he's doing the training that he has been given, and then the samurai, approaches him and says, "No mind.
Please forgive. Too many mind.
Too many mind?
Hi. Mind the sword. Mind the people what? Mind the enemy. Too many mind. No mind.
No mind."
The moment he internalizes those two words, no mind, he suddenly enters this state of flow where he's just doing things so flawlessly. If we can approach things from a state of, the zone or the flow, as many would call it, then there is a higher chance of us doing the things we want to do, and also the chance of creating beautiful work that has the potential to be above average. Artists often talk about performing from a state of flow where they're no longer thinking about or no longer worried about the things that holds them back. And even athletes claim to be performing from this state of zone. So how do you optimize for the state of flow? So here are some things that I've been trying, that I've been doing in order to get into this state of flow. And although by and large you cannot always turn on and off the state of flow like a faucet, but doing some of these rituals will help you tap into that state of mind as frequently as possible, I believe. The first tip that I have for you in order to get into the state of flow is that you need to have already thought. So I don't remember where I actually heard this quote from. I cannot trace the author's name. I tried my best, and if this rings a bell to any one of you guys, please help me out in the comments below. But this is how the quote goes: during the day, moment to moment, you don't have time to think. You need to have already thought. During the day, a lot of things are demanding our attention, right? We have all these notifications, social media, emails, people texting us, people demanding our attention now, people telling us that we need to get the things done right now. In such a situation where so many things are already demanding our attention, and we're already in this attention economy, right? There is a price tag on your attention, and everybody would want to get that. So to mitigate the risks of being pulled around and jerked around all throughout the day, we need to have already thought about how our day is supposed to go out. And my tip number 2 is tied with tip number 1, and that is to make lists, and not just any kind of lists. So before you click away from this video, and I'm talking about 2 different kind of lists, and both of these lists serve a meaningful purpose in your life. So the first list that I'm talking about is a compounding list, and the other list is a project list. So the first list that I'm talking about, the compounding list, what this list does is it outlines certain activities or tasks that you need to do every day. These are small, tiny tasks that, if done over a long period of time, it will create extraordinary results that will literally blow your mind off. So the way to approach the compounding list is that you need to start off by the goals that you want to achieve in about 3 to 5 years. Oftentimes it is said that we overestimate the things that we can do in 1 year, but we totally underestimate the things that we can do in 3 years. Over a span of 1 year, there is very little chance of things compounding or building up on each other. If you can consistently do a particular task over a span of 3 years, the results could be something entirely extraordinary. Consider if you are putting money every day, putting a small amount of money every day for over 3 years, compared to a 1 year span, and if the money that you are putting in is compounding, the money that you'll receive at the end of the third year will literally blow your head off. So that is the compounding list, and I spent a lot of time talking about the compounding list because it's really important that you get this right. And the another list is your project list. Your total perspective, your total mindset is going to change when you approach things from a project lens. And in order to get that right, you need to understand what a project is. Project is a set of activities or tasks that you do that is linked to a particular goal. It has a fixed outcome, and the key word is that it has to be completed within a given time frame or a given deadline. If you have a goal without a deadline, then it's just a hobby or a dream. Your actions in the present moment will not be directed towards the right outcome if there is no deadline to it. I recommend that you set no more than 3 or 5 projects at a maximum. If the project is linked to a deadline, it has to have a certain set of activities that build up on each other. So in that sense, you break down the work structure, and then you have a weekly plan or a monthly plan depending upon the deadline, and you focus on these projects in the project list. So you have 2 lists that have been prepared beforehand, and the key word here is prepare beforehand, so that you don't have to think about it as you go about your day. Instead of bearing yourself down with all of these productivity hacks and tricks and tips, if you focus on just these 2 lists, your life is gonna dramatically change. I want to describe this particular scene in The Dark Knight, or Batman Begins specifically. So in this particular scene, Bruce Wayne sees his childhood friend, or let's say he has this romantic interest with his childhood friend Rachel, and then Bruce Wayne at this moment in time has this playboy persona, right, in order to cover his identity, which is the Batman. And then he approaches Rachel and has this overwhelming surge of emotion, as you can tell by the look on his face. And then he just wants Rachel to understand that he's not the person that he appears to be. He's not this playboy persona, but inside he's different. And he says to Rachel, it's
not me. It's inside. I am more.
And then Rachel says something that is very impactful, and that is one of the most memorable lines from Batman Begins. And Rachel says something like,
"You may still be that same great kid you used to be, but it's not who you are underneath. It's what you do that defines you.
The point that I'm trying to make is, it doesn't matter what's going on in your head. It doesn't matter if your internal monologue is constantly nagging, constantly, pushing you around. It doesn't matter what your state of mind is. What matters is the actions that you do despite how you feel. If you are new here, my name is Tudden and I talk about mental models, strategies and framework curated for creative entrepreneurs and modern philosophers. If you identify yourselves as one of these, please subscribe because you'll definitely like it here.